Hey there, welcome back to Right at the Wire. We have got a great slate of races at Gulfstream on Saturday. It's Pegasus World Cup Day. We've got 7 graded stakes. We're going to cover all of them, and we'll have individual postings on a few. But let's start off with the ultimate, the featured event, the one we all want to see, and that's the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. It's the 13th and last race on the card, running a mile and an eighth for 4-year-olds and up. And let's remember, when we think about Gulfstream, because it is a mile and an eighth track, it's a very unique configuration. It basically starts on a turn. So consequently, every horse to the outside is at a very big tactical disadvantage. And we've seen it many times where, uh, you know, it, they just get marooned out there, and there's just really no way to recover from it, particularly if it's a horse who wants to run early on up near the pace. It can be overcome. Forte, a couple years ago in the Florida Derby, was able to do it, but it is a challenge, and it certainly when the field is fairly evenly matched, like this one is, then it does make for difficult sledding if you're on the outside. So let's just keep that in mind. We're going to look at the field, and we've got a lot of familiar faces as we always do, most notably Saudi Crown, White Abario, Stronghold, Mystic Dan, the Kentucky Derby winner, the perennial Skippy Longstocking, and Locked, who has emerged from his layoff and is now making his 4-year-old debut, as well as Croupy. So Todd Pletcher has a couple in here. And, in this race, of course, as always with grade ones, one of the main things to think about, of course, is class. And I don't want to be thinking about any horse who's not a grade one horse and has proven it as such. And that's really the determinant for me. We've got quite a few coming in from the West Coast. Mixto, who won the Pacific Classic in a really lousy race. Don't think it was indicative of what this horse can do, and I don't think he's good enough to be in this field. New Grange is another one. Just haven't seen it where he looks terribly prepared to make to step up in this race, and I don't like his work tab either, for that matter. And then Skippy Longstocking, I think he's better than what we used to say about him, is that he's a grade 3 horse and that's what he wins. He's a little better than that. I mean, he's grade 2, and I think he, all things being equal, could be competitive here. But once again, as it was the case last year, he is marooned all the way in the outside in the 10 hole. And for a horse who likes to be up near the lead, it's just a very difficult proposition, particularly when you're borderline grade 1. And, he's more of a grade 2 type of horse to me. So he's got his work cut out for him. Not to say he can't figure out a way to get into the money. Maybe he can, but I'm not going to bet on it, and I'm not going to use him for that reason. Mystic Den is cross-entered in the inside information on the same day. It's a 7-furlong race, and as you know, those of you who watch my postings, Mystic Dan has never been one of my favorites. And being by Golden Sense, I'm going to harp on this until you get tired of hearing it, but I just don't think this is a 2-turn horse. You couple that with the fact that he's outside in the 9 hole. And I think it's a very problematic race for Mystic Dan, particularly when we know Brian Hernandez favors being to the inside along the rail to save ground. So to me, it's a rather difficult proposition, not impossible, but I would have to believe the inside information at 7 furlongs around 1 turn would be a more favorable spot, considering Mystic Dan bombed out in the Malibu. And, it may have just been rust. I don't know. Kenny McPeak's been like, we're just not really sure. But is he, can he run with this group? Yes. I think he can. I just think the setup isn't right for it. And so I'm going to let Mystic Dan go. We've got a filly in this race, Power Squeeze. who was really didn't do anything wrong as a filly last year, except she couldn't beat Torpedo Anna, and who could, right? I mean, you look back at her record; she beat everybody else and beat them pretty handily. She's marooned in the 12 hole, and again, um, she hasn't put up speed figures commensurate with the Grade One performers in here, and that's really my biggest knock on her. She may be able to work out a trip coming from behind, but in the 12 hole, again, it's a pretty difficult proposition. I just don't think she's fast enough, is really what it comes down to more than anything else. So I'm going to let her go. So let's talk about the horses that are. An incident. Vitality's a pretty easy scratch. I don't even know why he's in this race. He's just filling out the field. So let's take a look and talk about the horses that I think are legitimate contenders in here, and we all know who they are. We'll start with Saudi Crown. Since that huge effort in the Saudi Cup, where he just ran a gangbuster third, he was game. He just ran his eyeballs out and got past late in the stretch. He seems to have lost a little zip on the fastball. And if you note that Brad Cox has been putting him in mile races, and I think that's maybe more to take a little bit of the pressure off of trying to wire a field at longer distances. And most recently, he ran at a mile, or he ran at a mile in the 16th, and was able to get the job done at the fairgrounds. Wasn't the greatest of fields he ran against. So there's some question marks. You look at his speed figures, and they're just a couple of points below what they were prior to that Saudi Cup race. So he's a question mark. Can he still wire this field? He's got an optimum post position. He's got everything his way here, and he certainly could do it. I don't know that he's going to be terribly worried about any of the horses who might press him, because any of the significant pace threats who would want to be upright on his throat latch like Skippy Longstocking, they're on the outside, and they won't be able to get to him. So Mixto or Newgrange, I don't think is going to bother Saudi Crown. So if he runs his race, he could very well wire this field. But I just have a feeling there's something a little off the fastball, and for that reason, I'm going to use him. But I think he would be more of a candidate for underneath to me. Stronghold number 6 is, this horse is, I don't think he's ever been out of the exacta, ever. He loves to compete, except for the Kentucky Derby, I'm sorry. He loves to compete, he loves to run. The Malibu, he ran a really nice race, but what's always the knock on Stronghold is he's just not quite good enough. And he just ran a career-high Brisnet figure in the Malibu, but that's one turn. And he may have matured a bit now that he's 4 years old. That's entirely possible. But I just don't think he's fast enough. And really, he's a nice horse. I like him. But I think he's kind of in that Skippy Longstocking and hit show variety. They're really good stakes performers, but they're just a hair below the best. And that's the way I feel about Stronghold. He's going to run his race. He's got a good post position. I guarantee you he'll be coming around the turn and he'll make his run, but he won't be fast enough. So to me, he's a use underneath, fatten up the trifecta. You get around 10 to 1. That's some decent value. So Stronghold, I think you certainly want to use. We'll talk about the late runners before we get to my pick in this race. Certainly want to think about Locked. I love this horse. I've loved him ever since Saratoga. He's got great acceleration, but he's marooned out in the 11 hole in this race. Now, he's a late runner. He doesn't have to get up near the lead. That's entirely true. So he may be able to work out a trip, and if he does, he's going to be very tough coming flying late down the stretch. One thing I noted in the Cigar Mile, though, and this may be attributed to the fact that he hasn't run a lot. In the stretch, yes, he ran down the leader, who I can't remember the name, but Mulligan, rather. And he did so with just a really great burst of speed. But note when you watch it in the stretch, he had a little period where it took him a little bit to get it into gear. just not very long, but enough to tell you that maybe he requires a little bit of encouragement to get going, and it may also again be that he hasn't run a lot. If that happens in this race, that will cost him the win without a doubt, because this just not going to be. This field is too good for him to have that type of problem. Can he win this race? Yes, he can. I just have a feeling because he's going to be a little farther back than some of the other more prominent horses, that tactically he's at a bit of a disadvantage at Gulfstream, as we know, is a speed favoring track. So to me, Locked is a must-use, and if he wins it, nobody will be happier than me, but I just have a feeling it doesn't really set up very well for him. So to me, Locked is a use underneath. So then we come to Crouppy, number 5. I think this horse is sitting on a big one. I think he has matured, and his last, the Clark handicap, he just got screwed in the stretch. I mean, I'm not sure he was going to win the race, but he just couldn't get free, and he got all tangled up, and it resulted in a disqualification. He worked out a trip. He had plenty of horse in the at the turn in the stretch, and he, again, just had some bad race luck, really is what it comes down to. But I think this is a good horse. I think he's ready to run, to take another step forward into Grade 1 prominence. He's been knocking at the door. I've liked what I've seen from his races. And, in the 5 hole, he probably can get a little bit, he's not going to be up near the leaders, but I think from the 5 hole, he should be able to get like a mid-pack type of position. And from there, he could be dangerous if they can work out a trip. So, Crouppy at 15-1, I think, is a steal. It's a nice overlay, and I like him to make some noise in this race, and perhaps with a little bit of help, could pose the upset. Steel Sunshine, number 7, is a horse for the course. You look, I don't think he's ever been out of the money at Gulfstream. He's not good enough to win this race, but he certainly can. He's going to come flying late and on a track that he loves. And at 30-1, he spices up the try if he can get in for third, or the super if you play that for sure. So to me, that's the extent of my interest. That's how I would use him, as the bottom of the try or the bottom of the super. So my pick to win this race is White Barrio. And, it took me a little while to come around on this horse. I didn't like him as a 3-year-old. I just haven't liked the horse. I thought he had limitations. And sometimes I've been proven right. But the last couple races since he's come back, and now he's with Saffie Joseph again, his last race in particular, he didn't win. He was a little too far back. He broke slowly. But once he kicked it into gear, you saw that great acceleration. And I think with a good trip, he should be awfully dangerous in this spot. And he's certainly a Grade 1 horse. Any horse who wins the Breeders' Cup Classic is a Grade 1 horse. Now, the one issue that I have with White Barrio, and this is something that sometimes happens with older horses, is they develop bad habits or they get a little lazy. And his last couple of races, he's been slow out of the gate. And the last race, it cost him because he just couldn't make up the ground. Now, if he breaks fine, which, Saffie's a good trainer. He'll work that out, I think. If he breaks okay, he's going to be right off the leaders, and he'll be poised and ready to pounce in the stretch, and I think he'll draw off and win the race. If he does not break well, it's a long road to hoe, without a doubt. I mean, he's got a good post position, but that would be my one concern. But these things can be corrected. They school him a little bit in the gate, and I'm confident that they'll work that out. So, to me, White Barrio looks to me like he's going to run a good race on his home track, and he's my pick to win it. So we take a look at our wagering strategy. We're going to use White Barrio for the win. Hopefully it won't be too short a price. And then our exactas, we're going to have 3 of them, and we're going to stagger them in the order you see here, 4-5, 4-11, 4-6. I'm hoping We get Krupe up in second. I just have a feeling that he's going to get the trip. Just have a sneaky feeling about that. And then, of course, Locked. Those are the two with White Barrio, I think, are the my three prime horses in this race. And then we'll throw one in with Stronghold. Saudi Crown, I mean, you could throw an exacta in with him, but I just got a feeling that he's gonna wilt, and that's just a feeling I got. He may be a bit of an underlay here, so I'm going with that. And then for the trifecta, we'll go with our top three. White Barrio on top with 5-11, 5-11. Then we'll go 4-5, 4-5 with 2-6, 7-11. Then 4-5 with 2-6, 7-11 with 4-5. And then finally 4 with 5-11 with 2-6, 7. So if we get White Barrio home, we're looking good. If we get Krupe home with White Barrio in second, we're looking really good. So that's our wagering strategy. I hope our analysis helps you with your own, and I wish you the best of luck with it. It's going to be a great day of racing regardless of what happens. We will have postings, as I mentioned, for the more prominent grade ones. We'll have individual postings for those along with wagering strategy and whatnot. And then we'll put it all together with each individual stakes race will be analyzed in one posting, and then we'll have the sequences as well as some best bets and value plays. So a lot to look forward to this week. And don't forget, we've also got the Southwest Stakes from Oaklawn this weekend, which we'll be covering as well. So plenty of content on the way. Be on the lookout for it. That's it from here. And incidentally, if you do like content like this, please like and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And thanks so much for all your support, those of you who have been on board. That's it from here. I'll talk to you soon. And until then, be well.